Today's show is brought to you in part by today's sponsor, your local Metro Detroit Best Choice Roofing. In my mind, there is one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. Whether it's time to replace your roof or repair it, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the region and inside the city of Detroit, too. Find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. Or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, October 18th, 2024, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. I am Jer Stays. I apologize. My voice is a little tired after the happy hour last night at the congregation. It was so great to see so many people. One person I did not see because he had a conflict, and I missed you. Devin O'Reilly, how are you? Coming to us from west of Woodward.
I'm doing good, Jer. It's that middle of October. It's busy, like we talked about on the previous episodes. And yeah, I was hated to miss the social gathering of the Daily Detroit listeners. I myself was at a social gathering for Leadership Detroit over at Tenacity Craft, which is another cool little small business. So we were doing similar things. But your voice sounds no worse for wear.
I'm trying to keep it together. We got to try a couple of things. We're going to get into a few different stories, a lot of development, a little bit in the restaurant scene, and then a couple of listener questions. But first, where we've been, and I finally got to try some pizza that people have told me I need to try for a long time.
Okay, tell me more about this. I mean, pizza is one of those things where, like, I just feel that the market is just flooded so much. I don't get a lot of interest in like new pizza places, but like I think the place you went has been getting a lot of play recently.
Yeah, and it is not new. It has been around for a long time. It's like this little hole in the wall called Fredi the Pizzaman, and that is down in like Melvindale, and it's got hours that do not line up with any time that I'm usually available. It's closed Sundays through Tuesdays. So it's only open Wednesday through Saturday, and it's only open from 10:30 to like 6:30, and then sometimes they close early when they're sold out. Excellent Luciano went down and actually picked up a pepperoni and basil pizza from there and brought it up to the Techtown studio so I could actually try Fredi the Pizzaman and make it happen. Because, I do not mean this as any shade toward Melvindale. I just don't usually end up in that direction in the middle of the day.
Well, and why? I mean, realistically, why would you?
Yeah, I mean, there's just not too many meetings. Like, I would totally go in the evening, right? I would totally go. But like for lunch, it's like a little bit too long of a drive. Mm-hmm. It's like that weird little middle spot. So being able to try it, man, I get why everybody is so excited about this place. Because, oh yeah, it's a great slice. The pepperoni was kind of the old-fashioned style that has like a little bit of a cup to it. And the pizza itself was that nice kind of thin. It was round, but it was nice and thin.
New York style, would you
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to that New York style thing. This works. I get it. And I'm excited that I'm actually able to say, you know what? I've had their pizza. It is more than solid. And if I do get the chance to have it again, I'm definitely going to do it.
Good. That's good to hear, Jared. Melvindale is not too far from where I actually live, so I might be able to pull this off on a day when I'm not at work. So you've somewhat inspired me a little bit. Now, was there a big line? Did Luciano mention did he have to wait a long time to get his pizza?
I think he timed it out pretty well. But the other thing I'm thinking about is you could maybe even stop by if they are open when you're leaving work. You could like stop by on the way home as like a little detour.
That could work, Jared.
Just thinking about it. And you're right. There are so many. It's like the chicken joint. So I guess the Shaquille O'Neal's chicken joint is opening up in Livonia, right? Like more chicken, of course. So I feel like
chicken. Well,
I
had some chicken. So I tried some new chicken myself.
All right. Tell me about your chicken.
So I tried. It's interesting, right? So you just mentioned the Shaquille O'Neal, the big chicken, opening up in Livonia. Shaquille O'Neal, obviously a former basketball player. I went to another former basketball player's chicken place. Although this is definitely broader than chicken. This is a soul kitchen, as the name says. Fixins. Fixins Soul Kitchen from the former basketball player Kevin Johnson. Interestingly enough, Kevin Johnson did not actually play for the Pistons at any point in his career. He played for the Kings, the Suns, some other teams. He's opened up locations in Sacramento, in Tulsa, in LA, and Detroit is only the fourth location of Fixins Soul Kitchen. I had heard about it. I kind of was like, at first, Jerry, it was one of those, I think we mentioned it on the show, but they hadn't advertised they were open for lunch yet. And now they're open for lunch. And I was really happy to see that. And the place actually was relatively busy. It's a big, bright space, lots of windows. It's in Paradise Valley on Randolph Street, just past where like Detroit Seafood used to be in that area. You could say it's a little out of the way, but we've talked about it. That Paradise Valley area is getting developed pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there's so much interest in it finally, which I think there's so much potential over there.
Yeah, it's its own really cool neighborhood. Obviously, it has a lot of rich cultural history. So, right now you've got Dennis Archer Jr.'s place, the Vinyl Society, which is more kind of upscale lounge vibes. You've got this now, which is soul food, but very kind of approachable soul food. I mean, they have everything from like chicken and waffles, bucket of chicken, handheld sandwiches, fish sandwiches. Your even salad. So when I went in there, the bartender was asking me, do I want to go light or heavy? I said relatively light, and I still ended up with a 2-piece chicken, 2 sides, and a biscuit. So, that's light here.
And thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs up. I wanted to try more. There's so much. The chicken was really good. I mean, I don't want to get like Barstool. I'm not some chicken aficionado. I would say the chicken was probably like 8.5.
Okay.
Juicy enough. Chicken was pretty good. I got a white and a dark. The sides really stood out to me. I got the candied yams and the mac and cheese upon recommendation from the bartender. And then their biscuits that they serve with this like, it's almost like a berry butter. It's really, really good. And they have tons of sides I would have come back to try. I wanted to try their fish sandwich. I wanted to try the chicken and waffles, the shrimp and grits. They have oxtails, some collard greens. So it's like, it's a good, approachable soul food. Good prices, for downtown. And it was a heavy lunch, Jer. I had to just kind of take a beat afterwards and collect myself before going back to work. But it was doing a pretty good lunch crowd. It would do a pretty good, I'm sure it would do a pretty good dinner crowd. There's TVs in there. It might be a good place to like, there's sports on this time of year. You could catch it there. So thumbs up on Fixins. Check it out.
I'm very curious about the mac and cheese. I've been looking for some good additional mac and cheese. So.
Very good, Jer. And there's a lot to try. Maybe you and I'll stop there for drinks too. I should say they have a full bar. They also have Kool-Aid, just like regular Kool-Aid. Then also like they have Kool-Aid in cocktails. So if that's your thing, you could get down with that jam. And then they have a featured whiskey, which is Uncle Nearest. Uncle Nearest was the first African-American master distiller in the U.S. He's a former slave, and he's considered the true godfather of Tennessee whiskey.
Oh, wow.
So how about that for you? A little history lesson with your soul food.
I appreciate it all. You mentioned whiskey. I actually have a question on our member-only Patreon Discord from CLT Go Blue for you. And if you don't know what we're talking about, our members, if you support us on Patreon, you can be part of our member-only community. And this question is basically looking for a whiskey joint, because any happy hour recommendations for downtown these days, buddy I work with that lives in Royal Oak is looking for a whiskey spot to check out near our office. And here's the curveball. I did not realize that the whiskey parlor is closed.
Oh, yes. Indeed, Jer. Whiskey parlor is closed.
R.I.P.
So what you're looking for a whiskey place in downtown, right? That's where
I have a thought off the top. What about Firebird Tavern?
That's a good one. That's actually a great one. They actually have a ton of whiskeys at Firebird. They're open basically all day, lunch and dinner, so you could definitely get that happy hour whiskey there. Great selection. They have good prices. That is a strong recommendation, Jer. I would also say the Lone Goat has some interesting whiskeys if you're into kind of, they've got some Irish whiskeys, some English stuff, some Scotch over at Lone Goat, which we've, of course, talked about before. So that's a good one. I would also say Two James. I mean, Two James is open. It's not necessarily, it's Corktown, but Two James is open all day, but that's always a great spot to pop in and grab a drink.
I have not been to Two James in a minute. I need to check it out. So hopefully that helps you out with that recommendation and other people around. Let's get into a little bit of news. The University of Michigan's Board of Regents is thinking about a $9.5 million purchase of nearly 2.3 acres of land from MGM Detroit Casino. That's in downtown Detroit, of course. This would be to support the future needs of the under construction U of M Center for Innovation. This is a $250 million project. We have mentioned it on the show many times. The potential is huge around it for its economic and on-the-ground impact. If you don't know, it's being funded by a mix of state money, private donations, and other sources. This move comes as part of a larger redevelopment effort in the area. Some of it has gotten started, some of it has not. I think this additional bit of land is a good harbinger of things to come. It's been kind of sitting empty for a while, and the more they pick up, I feel like U of M has bigger plans for this area than I think they're letting on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not something we might see, obviously, as the first iteration of this Detroit Innovation Center, but it's a positive sign that they're collecting additional properties and parcels to eventually build on so that they can go bigger. And I think that's really a good sign as they do more with this campus. Obviously, I'm a fan of any additional development. I wonder how much they're being pushed by each other. You have obviously what's happened with Ford and Michigan Central, and then we were just talking about it yesterday. You have this whole project and the future of health with Henry Ford Health, the Pistons, and Michigan State. And Michigan State is really, really investing tens of millions and hundreds of millions, in fact, into kind of the new center area and kind of planting their flag there. So maybe U of M is feeling a little bit of competition and saying, well, wait a second, we're going to go big here too. So I'm not sure if that's part of it, but I'm happy that it's happening.
Listen, I do not underestimate the impact of FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of missing out has really driven a lot of things. If it wasn't for FOMO, you wouldn't see things like Beacon Park, because the CEO of DT Energy saw what was happening in Campus Martius and then went to Boston. I remember going to an event and hearing this story. Went to Boston, saw some of the parks there. And it was like, oh, well, we got to do something over here. And that kind of energy, look, it doesn't matter how much money you have or access to resources, FOMO hits people.
Yeah. So if that's part of the reason, then all for it, because all it's creating is more opportunities, more development downtown, and hopefully more activity where there previously really hasn't been in that area.
Now, Devin, do you remember that big fire at Taqueria El Rey a couple years ago? It was over on Verner?
Yes, it was very, very, very sad.
Well, it's back. So today is the grand reopening, October 18th, at 3400 Bagley Street, which is the old El Zocalo space. That's the stretch of Mexican town that most people know. So Taqueria El Rey back in the day was kind of more deep into town. This is more of that area where a lot of suburban tourists go when it's just right off the freeway there. So I think that'll be good for business for them. Taqueria El Rey has been doing pop-ups. There were thoughts that it was maybe going to go to Oakland Mall. Maybe there was going to go to Lincoln Park for a while. And I'm glad to see them settle back into Southwest Detroit. The new spot will also have tres leches and snacks, so adding to the culinary stuff. Doors open today, and the official grand opening is planned for November 1st. It is literally my favorite taco spot in Metro Detroit, so I am very excited about this one.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives nearby there, and that is his absolute favorite taco spot in Detroit. So it's really great to see that they're back. Sounds like better than ever. A new location, perhaps pick up some new traffic, like you said. I mean, it's not a huge difference in geography, but I mean, a little bit goes a long way around here. If you have those tourists who are already kind of popping into Mexican town, they might more easily find themselves at Taqueria El Rey, which should be good for business.
Now, this is not an ad. I'm just sharing this because a couple of listeners passed it to me around a meal deal. So there's this thing called Let's Do Dinner Detroit, which I'm not as familiar with, but we have not had Restaurant Week in a long time. And I don't know for sure, but I feel like Restaurant Week is dead. So this is kind of in that same vein. This is kind of Detroit restaurants. I think there's more than 30 of them. It's through the 20th through the 27th with 3-course meals ranging from $20 to $75 a person, depending on the spot. There will be some donations to Forgotten Harvest made with each meal that is purchased. I went through the menus, a lot of places that you might know. So, whether it's Central Kitchen, Eatery, Green Dot, Mercury, McShane's, Atavia, Pow, Shelby, Slows. Go through the website, take a look. I know people are always looking. They're telling me all the time, Jer, it's great you have these high-end offerings, but I'm looking for deals. So that's why I thought I'd take a minute and share it with you.
Yeah, this sounds great. You're giving back to Forgotten Harvest, so I love that. I love that element of it. Sounds like from the roster of participating restaurants that it runs the full gamut. You could get just about any type of food that you want and get it at a deal. These are great restaurants. So really, really cool. And yeah, Restaurant Week we just don't really have anymore. I think it's I think for Detroit it just doesn't make sense as much. I think Restaurant Week serves as a great tool to bring awareness to your city's restaurants, and I think smaller cities, even think of like a Birmingham, a Royal Oak, a Dearborn, a Plymouth, like they have their own little Restaurant Week type of things. But for Detroit, it's like it's so big now. Our restaurant scene is so robust. It doesn't really make sense to do like a Restaurant Week anymore.
And the dead time, it lines up with where the auto show is. So usually you see restaurant weeks in the major cities in that like winter dead time. And the auto show is back at its old time in January. So, that's going to bring in some people and things like that. So, it never really lined up,
Yeah, most definitely.
A new diner is coming to Detroit's West Village, again on that more affordable tip. It's called Norms. It's opening October 24th. It'll be in the same strip as Red Hook Coffee and some other businesses over on Agnes, just east of Van Dyke. Seems like very big classic diner vibes in the marketing. I know a listener who is very excited. They're going to be able to walk to this place, and there's a lot of residents over there. So I think it'll be a good neighborhood spot as well as a spot to check out. I was noting that on the menu, nothing is over $15, which nowadays is super kind pricing. And, diner food. So 2 eggs, bacon, ham, sausage, biscuits and gravy, lox plate, pancakes, a lunch with a Cobb salad, a turkey club, just giving you some like samples of what's going on. So, new diner spot. I have had multiple people be excited because like meals under $20, people are still very pumped about.
I like it. We need more. It's not something I'm probably going to make it out to over in West Village. Unfortunately not there that often, but this type of casual food is definitely needed over there. It's a great kind of close knit neighborhood. I know Roses was over there for a while, and they were popular, but just couldn't kind of figure out the concept. I think and pricing and such. So sounds like this is a good approachable price model for a diner. I hope to hear some feedback from listeners soon on how it is.
So a little bit of feedback, couple of questions from folks. One, I picked one of the questions that is a theme because I think some people are surprised that sometimes we talk about political things on the show, even though it is election season. There's many people who don't understand why we ever mention politics at all, talk about how it's too divisive. And then others will say how it doesn't matter who's elected. William writes, and he is mad at you, Devin. He says, Devin, you always keep it even on stuff, but I was disappointed to hear you so strongly go at Donald Trump. I come to you for restaurants and fun and what's good in the city. I didn't know with the focus on business you could be so liberal since liberals kill jobs. Thoughts?
Ouch. Well, the Chamber of Commerce themselves came out, you might be today, you might see it, kind of denouncing Donald Trump's remarks. Donald Trump trashed Detroit. He did it multiple times. And so, William, as a listener of Daily Detroit, I would hope that you respect the city that we talk about 80% of the time. And one candidate does not respect the city that we talk about and love all the time. And so that's just pretty clear for me. I mean, you come at my family, we're going to have a problem. So you're done. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'm not going to be nice to someone who's trashing our city. So I didn't say anything about where to vote or how to vote or who to vote for. You should vote, obviously, exercise your civic duty. But I'm sure clearly my mind has been made up. And I don't know. I think it turned a lot of people off in Michigan.
I hear this a lot, and I respect it. I respect it to an extent that people don't want to hear about certain things. But it is election season. We've only got a couple of weeks to go.
They're putting themselves into the news. I mean, you show up at a nationally televised event, and we're just talking about what people are literally going on in front of TV cameras and saying.
Well, the other thing is that people need to understand that who is in office really matters to Detroit. I do not believe in this. It doesn't matter who gets elected. And I do not think that both candidates are the same. As a reporter, people don't realize grants, funding, block stuff, all this stuff. Like sometimes you'll hear stuff where it's funded by the city. In fact, those are pass-through dollars from federal programs. There are so many things that are ARPA dollars. Transit, if you care at all about transit, if you care about your freeways, a lot of your freeways are funded by federal money. Like all of this stuff is tied together. Detroit's success in some ways is built on a web of support that includes philanthropic business, but also government sources. And and so I have to pay attention to it because the money that pays for these things, the U of M Board of Regents is elected. People don't realize that, but it is elected.
They'll be on your ballot. Hopefully they realize that because they'll have a ballot.
Right. So it's all tied together. I got to tell you, when somebody says, well, all Democrat cities are terrible or all Republican, I dismiss that offhand because in real life, I have seen both Democrats and Republicans be competent and incompetent at running cities over the years.
Well, and I think this also bears repeating because it's such a specific instance where we're not even really talking about Democrats or Republicans. I think that, both can be good for business in their own ways.
Yeah.
But we have a candidate who is literally talking about punishing and withholding funding from cities or states which he doesn't agree with the elected officials there. Gavin Newsom in California. I know that he doesn't like Gretchen Whitmer. So what is that going to mean for Michigan? Are we going to get money withheld from us that we should get? Are we going to get punished by the administration because he doesn't like who's running our city and our state? This is just not. It's not cool. It's not normal. And I hope it ends soon.
I do too. I wish it wasn't this way. It didn't used to be this way, but it is this way. And so we have to face facts. I wish that it wasn't this divisive, but at the end of the day, I care about the community I live in. I'm not doing this for status points or extra likes or whatever. We live here, we work here every day, and it has material impacts on what's going on. Let's go to our final listener question. Janice, what's going on with that thing, the Mid? You used to live around there. Devin, how about an update? Looks still quiet.
Well, thanks for throwing me a bone, Jared, because we only really had an update as of yesterday when Cranes came out with an article talking about a scaled back approach for the Mid, which actually, when I read the article, it's not that scaled back. The first vision that we got, I want to say, back in 2018, 19 was so grand, so preposterous that I think even you and I just scoffed at it.
Yeah.
And so even this dialed back approach with, multiple relatively large buildings. 15 floors in one of them. You've got, I think, 10 stories or so in another one.
Yeah, there's a bunch of 7 and 8 story things that they want to do.
So this is not small at all. There's 217 unit multifamily building. There's 153 unit apartment building. There's a hotel apparently under the Hyatt flag. So this is still a pretty big project, and as such, I'm going to remain skeptical because again, I did live across from this, and so I just saw this hole in the ground for my entire tenure at the plaza and nothing ever being done, not a single finger being lifted to do anything. And as it stands, not a single finger has been lifted yet. So I will wait until those fingers get lifted. But it's exciting, and it sounds like they have their stuff together to actually execute on this plan. So we'll see.
The closer stuff, I believe, more than the further stuff. So there's a huge market for hotels right now, and people are going to be building hotels like crazy in greater downtown Detroit. There is something on there that's on the board for 2031, I think, that they talk about. When you start talking 2031, I start getting more skeptical.
I agree.
So that's going to be a range for me, is what I'll say.
Yeah, because you have to factor in market trends. We don't know what the market is going to be, what the economy is going to look like in 7 years. And so it would just be too hard to forecast anything outside of 3 or 4 years because you truly just don't know what could be going on.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes to the Cranes Detroit article where they're going to talk about a Thompson Hotel, which is a Hyatt flag. So that'll be interesting to see.
I hope to see it, Jared.
All right, with that, we are done for today and the week. Thank you so much to Cheyenne Oserini, who edits the show behind the scenes, as well as everyone else who helps make this possible, and our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. With that, I'm Jared Stave.
I'm Devin O'Reilly.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk next week.